Hello, ma'am. How are you?
I'm good. I'm great.
You have been a part of Flipkart. What languages should one prefer?
This organization as a fresher, I graduated and I joined Ciena. So that's also a product-based organization. It's into telecom. So there I joined as a Java developer initially, and then I was asked to move to front end. So I was working in JavaScript language-wise. I was working JavaScript and the other frameworks in front end. But it doesn't really matter as far as you choose one language you are proficient in. It's better if it's Java or C++, because according to me, a lot of people do Python, but Java and C++ have a better language grasp, and they are a lot more into deep. So if you understand either of the two languages, most of the companies believe that you can go through any other language irrespective. They give you JavaScript, Python, Golang, Scala, whatever, Kotlin, whatever. So it really doesn't matter, because mostly in companies, a lot of languages are used. It's mostly not Java and C++, but even if you have one of these languages in your knowledge, but good knowledge, I'm not just saying that, okay, you just know the syntax. No, you need to have a good understanding of the object-oriented principles, specifically that, and the data structures that are being used, like collections in Java. That is one of the key things that you should understand very nicely. If you know these two things in Java, I think you're good to go for any company. Python is okay, but I think one of the two would give you an edge for sure.
So, ma'am, what the difference do you see between Python and Java or C++? Basic difference in the
See,
level.
I have given a lot of interviews before I joined Flipkart, and I took interviews as well in my previous org. So what I feel is, I mean, might be it offends some Python developers, but while taking interviews and interacting with people and giving my interviews myself, I feel Python developers somewhere lack oops understanding. So somewhere they're not really good in object-oriented principles. Reason being because Java has a very in-depth oops constructors, all the principles of oops are all in depth focused in Java and as well as C++. So both of them are more or less the same. So I think both of them have a good language-wise implementations for oops. And if person goes through that, it gives them a really strong understanding of how things are actually implemented in the code. So industries usually have a very long code base. So it's like millions of lines. Usually when people are freshers, they write 50, 60, max 100, 150 lines of code. They would do it maybe lead code, maybe other coding platforms, but that's it. So you don't really know how long the code base is. And if you really don't have a good grasp on oops, then you will not be able to understand what the code is already written. And nobody's actually going to guide you there, like come and I'll show you how it flows. No, nobody's going to do that. They'll present you the code base, do it, that's it. So I feel when I interviewed Python developers and when I see people giving interviews in Python, they actually lack that kind of oops understanding. They are good coders, I don't doubt that, but that wise, language wise, I think somewhere they lack, and that's like mostly not preferred by the interviewers. So while interviewing, they would ask you these questions in their language, and somewhere I feel that they don't are really experienced in the implementations, because I have taken 3-4 interviews, and coincidentally one of them was for a senior level position that I was in the previous org, and she gave interview in Python, and I had a very bad experience. So that might be just her, but that's what I have realized, and I've seen all across. So I see interviews being very comfortable if you do any of these two languages. So I would say if you want to get into one of the really good product-based orgs like Fang or maybe Flipkart like organizations, I think one of the two languages would give you an edge over any other language. So that's why I'm saying this.
It's your personal opinion. Yeah, man is not
Not
here to
really,
just feel distress to someone else. Maybe there are people who
no,
got
absolutely
feel bad
not.
because
No,
it's
yeah,
a
they
person.
might.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think see, even if you do Python and you develop a great OOPS understanding, I think it's all good. But a lot of times students forget that part. They are focusing on data structures because no, okay, data structures, data structures. Everybody is saying data structures. It's all across the internet. You go, you'd find hundreds of people talking about data structures. Nobody talks about OOPS. Nobody does. And when you go into these companies, you would have a couple rounds where they would just check that. So I'll talk about it more, like what are the rounds and stuff, but there's just one round where that is it, they're asking you. And Python developers plug in that. So if you practice that well, you have extremely well understanding. I think Python is good. Any other language is good, honestly. It doesn't matter. But these languages would help you understand that. That's it. So the languages would itself guide you to it. So why to put double effort? I mean, I feel that. I mean, it's more of an effort. I learned JavaScript, and despite that, I still love Java. So Java is like one of my, it has my heart.
And ma'am, you have gone through the interview round. So what is the procedure to just crack those rounds? Because many of people
So,
don't know what to do and how many rounds they have to face.
so in general, I'll tell you so different levels have different kind of rounds.
Okay.
I'll talk about the freshers or the recent graduates or those who have 1 year of experience or less than 2 years of experience. For them, mostly companies have 3 rounds, along with an OA round. So there would be an online assessment round. Then there would be an LLD round, which is the low level design round. That would be an elimination round. So they expect you to code a complete in-memory application, and that would be an elimination round. You have to write a runnable code. Runnable code means you have to write your own test cases, and they should run. The output should be there. If your code does not run, you would be eliminated. So there is no question in that I have written this much of code and is it okay? No, it's not okay. They would eliminate you. So that is a very important round for going to the next round. All the other rounds are non-elimination rounds. So after this, once you qualify your LLD round, rest of the rounds are non-elimination rounds. So they would conduct all your rounds and then they would, tell you whether you're selected or not. The second round would be your DSA round. That is the DS and algo round. It would have like you would have to write a pseudo code for all the questions that they give you. And if the interviewer wants, he would make you write 1 or 2 coding questions. So you would have to write code, of course, but you have to write pseudocode for all. So there would be around 2 to 3 questions based on the level of the questions. Usually for SD1s or lower levels to less than 2 years of experience, there are 2 to 3 questions, and all of them are easy and lead code medium. So mostly those type of questions. And out of them, maybe they would ask you to write the code of 1 or 2. And you have to write pseudocode for all the questions. So that is like, in most places, that is how it is.
And ma'am, for the interview 1-to-1
And the
interaction round,
third,
HR round.
yeah. So the third round, so there's not really a HR round, it's an HM round. So it would be a hiring manager round, and it would be a technical come HR round. So they would ask you a lot of technical things from your CV, and about your projects and about your past works, and maybe a bit about that is out of the hiring manager's interest, maybe an high level design problem, or just a database question, or just some puzzles or some random things like these. So they would be like, mostly I have seen like they ask me puzzles in HM round. So that would be all an SQL kind of question. That is what HMs ask usually. And rest would be all about your CV, a cultural fitment kind of question, like what are your career aspirations and stuff like that. So that would be the last round, HM round. That has the maximum weightage. So even if you clear the rest of the 2 or 3 rounds that would be there, if you don't qualify the HM has the power to reject your candidature, basically. So if you don't qualify your HM round, the performance of the rest rounds actually doesn't really matter. So that is one of the important rounds as well. People do take HM rounds very lightly. I took HM round in one of the really good companies very lightly, and I got rejected in that round.